as we fly off to make-believe land where we think all of our wishes come true. Yeah, so Rian Johnson, I don't know if you heard, directed a Star Wars movie, and it was called The Last Jedi. And I will tell you, while it is my second least favorite Star Wars movie, not counting that abomination of a Clone Wars animated movie, but I mean, obviously Rise of Skywalker was, in my opinion, completely horrible. And my second least favorite is probably The Last Jedi, but I still enjoyed it. Like, I still liked it. There were certainly elements of it that I loved, elements of it that I really could have done without. But it is fair to say that it is a very divisive film. Mm-hmm. There are people who quite enjoy it. I lean more towards enjoying it, but there are a lot of people that really dislike it and really hate it. And that's what it just is, what it is. So it's one of those films. And Rian himself kind of became, as the director of the film, became the face of that division. He became kind of the poster child of the divisiveness of the film. And dare I even say, fairly or unfairly, kind of became the face of the divisiveness within the Star Wars fandom itself. And that was Rian Johnson. Now, there were early plans for Rian Johnson to do a trilogy of future Star Wars films that weren't going to be based around any of the existing, time era of those. It was going to be at a totally different time era, going to be totally new characters, all that kind of stuff. Well, that kind of went away. But now Rian Johnson is talking about it again. And he is saying that, well, no, this trilogy could very well still be alive. This comes from some folks at Variety. Rian Johnson said the following: I've stayed close to Kathleen Kennedy, and we get together often and talk about it, the new trilogy. Johnson said about his new Star Wars trilogy 5 years after it was first announced. It's just at this point a matter of scheduling and when it can happen. It would break my heart if I were finished, if I couldn't get back in that sandbox at some point. And that comes to us from Rian Johnson. All right. Well, Rian, be prepared to have your heart broken. They are not going to do, now listen to me carefully. They are not going to do a Rian Johnson directed trilogy of Star Wars films. They're not. Lucasfilm knows that, things like The Mandalorian and the excitement of some of the upcoming projects we have going on, that has kind of started to calm things in the Star Wars universe. Obviously, there's still incredibly toxic remnants and things like that. Absolutely. But things are calmer right now than they were. Mm. If you were to announce, and I think that they know this, and I say this as a Rian Johnson fan, I whether you're talking about Looper or whatever, I think Rian Johnson, and obviously Knives Out, which was brilliant. I say this as a Rian Johnson fan. Do not interpret this as coming from the mouth of some Rian Johnson hater. But the reality is, if you're going to be pragmatic about this, you announce Rian Johnson directing another Star Wars movie, that's all people are going to be talking about. And I don't mean in a good way. I don't mean positively about this new movie we're all excited about. It's going to be all about the divisiveness of Rian Johnson and blah, blah. And they know this. You can't do it. Now, that said, what I could see happening, and I said this months ago, and I stand by it, what I could see happening is this trilogy happening with different directors. I could see Rian Johnson being one of the writers or being a producer or whatever, maybe kind of shepherding it a little bit. And while that would raise the eyebrows and ire of some people, it would not be as bad as if he was directly with his hands on the wheel and directly in the director's chair. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I could much easily see the idea of him being a part of a new trilogy, but I just don't see any reality where they would greenlight Rian Johnson directing a new trilogy. Even though I'm a huge fan of his, I just can't see that happening. I know, Chris, you hear about this. Rian saying, hey, it's still possible. We could still do this. Can you see them making a Rian Johnson directed new trilogy?
Well, first of all, no. And I say that as someone who really enjoyed The Last Jedi. I'm a Last Jedi apologist. Fight me, chat. I don't care. I liked it. But I don't see how you do that trilogy, because unless he then does the JJ where we're going to ignore a film and then do whatever we want, I don't see how this comes to fruition in a nice organic way, unless it's taking those concepts, some of those things about Force users being just anyone who happens to have those abilities, anyone who has a chock full of metachlorians. It doesn't have to be people who are directly tied to the Emperor or the Skywalkers or things like that. That's what I liked about that story, was expanding the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Force users could be anyone, anywhere.
As they always had been in Star Wars lore.
And
Yeah.
then it just felt like we kept getting smaller and smaller with that. So that was why I liked it. But I don't think we would have him do that trilogy for that reason, and also for what you were talking about. My issue with him being a producer on this is I feel like then you set him up to be a Kathleen Kennedy. If the trilogy is great, oh, it's because Rian Johnson had nothing to do with this. If the trilogy is terrible, oh, it's because Rian Johnson was producing this, the way that people do that with Kathleen Kennedy. And I feel like it's a lose-lose situation then for folks. If his story gets told and that's what's the most important, I think that's great. And I do like the idea of him continuing to work within the Star Wars universe. I just don't know if it's going to be at the capacity he's talking about right now.
I agree with you, but the one difference is that the reaction you're talking about comes after the movie is done and has been seen.
Yes.
I think if he's in the director's chair, that's all the story is, even before the movie comes out. So I feel like the movie itself becomes defeated before it even comes out. Whereas if he's just a producer, people will go in and see it, and then they'll decide where to ascribe the credit or the blame afterwards. Anyway, Amy, you hear about this. Can you see Rian Johnson directing a new trilogy of Star Wars films?
No, I agree with what you're saying that, you know, especially with people, and granted, it's hard to make every Star Wars fan happy, but with things like, you know, The Mandalorian and Andor's looking really promising, it does feel like they're starting to right that ship of public opinion a little bit, or at least fandom opinion a little bit. I don't know why you'd throw him back in, because clearly that's not going to make a lot of the fandom happy, and I just don't. I wish, believe me, I wish for myself this was how it worked, that you could just, I would just come on this show every day and be like, and I'm going to be in it. They're looking forward to working with you, but unfortunately, not quite how this town works.
Honestly, the only other thing I can think of that would get like the fandom even more riled up would be if like Andor starts with an opening crawl that says somehow the Emperor has returned again, and I mean that's the only thing I can possibly.
I mean, maybe
see.
we didn't get rid of all the clones.
The Rian Johnson Jar Jar trilogy that we've all been hoping for.
That could do it as well. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think? Rian Johnson is saying that, you know, him and Lucasfilm are still talking about it. He thinks it can get done. I don't think that's reality. Maybe you do. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, True Classic. This brand new sponsor has the absolute best fitting t-shirts that a man can buy. Finding the right t-shirt with a little bit of a dad bod is incredibly frustrating. Most t-shirts are either way too tight on your gut or look way too big and boxy. You're not in high school anymore, and it's time to upgrade. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men finally get a better fit at an affordable price. And the John Campea Show viewers and listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off using the code Campea at trueclassic.com. Look, you and I both know that almost all of men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with six-packs. But let's be honest, that's not most of us. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt that you can always confidently throw on. Like most of you guys, ever since college, I have always struggled to find proper fitting t-shirts that are comfortable. Well, True Classic, from the moment I put on the shirt they sent me, solves it. And True Classic doesn't just stop at tees. From polos and workout shirts with the same flattering fit. Upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. Get 25% off at trueclassic.com with the promo code Campea. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. 100% risk-free guarantee with a 30-day refund policy. Stay classy with True Classic. Your dad bod will thank you.